Our first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will all stand and direct your attention to behind the superintendent, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Superintendent Culkeen, do we have anyone here from the public, anyone in the waiting room?
We don't see anyone, but we do need to amend the agenda. And I gotta keep, the executive session citation is incorrect. Nick Gall, can you hear me? Do you have the right citation in front of you?
I do.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read it?
Please do, thank you.
It's executive session as per 1 VSA 313A1F, confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body.
Superintendent Culkeen, anything that we ought to cover in executive session with the language that was posted on the agenda for A3? Is there anything else, or is it just us speaking with Dina?
Dina, you may need to come out and take action after the executive session based on what your attorney advises you.
But there's nothing else with the language that's posted, nothing that will be addressing none of that? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda as was just described by the superintendent.
So move.
Thank you, Dick. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. I think it was Cindy. We have first and a second. Any discussion on the motion to amend the agenda as described? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda as described, please signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Saying aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. So the agenda is so amended.
Chris, could you please take a little moment to see who all is there, because I can't see that.
So, Richard, we have the I'm sorry, Jim?
Richard had asked if we could do a roll call, and I forgot to mention it.
Sure. So we have the superintendent, Jim Culkeen. We have myself. We have Frank Barnes, the director of technology. We have Tim Sewell from Pownell. We have Dick Krantz from Woodford. Chael Sephora from Bennington. We have the ever charming Jerry Prue. We have Susan Hove, also from Woodford. Scott McEnany from Shaftesbury. We have the folks from Cat TV. We have Cindy Brownell, also from Pownell. We have yourself, Richard, and we have Nick Gall.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to agenda item 3 with the consent agenda. A few bits. Superintendent Culkeen, I did not see in the board packet, I didn't see a letter associated with the leave of absence from Mr. Mustaine. Is that typical that such a letter would be submitted as part of the board packet, or is there one that's not necessary?
So the leave of absence did not have that letter, but we have Nick Galt here, so he can address that when we get to the consent agenda for you. But I don't think you need the letter, but
Okay.
My new administrative assistant started today.
All right.
So, and there'll be a transition period. Lisa's doing a great job of doing 2 jobs, but that might have slipped through. Or Nick, do you want to address that? Is there a letter?
There is a letter, but sometimes we do not include it in the agenda based on the information that's in there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Superintendent Culkeen, what is the name of your new administrative assistant?
I couldn't hear you.
What's your new administrative assistant's name?
Amy.
All right. Well, welcome aboard, Amy. So the number one item on the consent agenda are the minutes. 2 bits. One, I just wanted to acknowledge that my dog has promised to be quiet this time around. So hopefully Richard won't need to note my dog in these minutes. But also there's frankly the mess that I made of the election of the vice chair. So going back and listening to the Cat TV recording, the votes that I had heard when we took the vote was Dick and Scott voting for Chayla, with Tammy and Susan and Cindy voting for Cindy. As I was tallying up the votes, I counted Shayla as an abstention. What I had done was miss Shayla raising her hand. Shayla acknowledged that a bit later, drew my attention to it a bit later. At first, suggested that we just let it lie and let Cindy serve as vice chair. I didn't feel that that was the correct way to do it, particularly since it was my error that I did. It's not that Shayla didn't vote or changed her mind. It's that I did not see Shayla voting for herself. And then Scott proposed the idea of waiting until the second Shaftesbury representative to this board was appointed by the Shaftesbury Select Board before we take any action at all. And so I think Richard's minutes captured the gist of all that, but I wanted to clarify again after reading Richard's minutes and going back and reviewing the CAT TV recording. The mistake was entirely mine. The misunderstanding was entirely mine. So I wanted to clarify that. So I suppose if anyone feels that how I just explained that needs to be more accurately captured in the minutes, then we can do that. We can have Richard amend those. But if we think that it's sufficient, we can just approve the minutes as they are. So I guess I would open the floor to discussion around what we want the minutes to reflect.
We still don't have a second Shaftesbury rep, right?
No, and so it's next week that the select board is meeting. I think Scott has already presented the letter to the select board, and it's my understanding the select board will at least begin to take some action in appointing a Shaftesbury representative. It'd be great if they were able to do that. I know of at least one person who has shown some interest in serving in that capacity, but ultimately it will be up to the Shaftesbury select board to make that decision. So hearing no recommendations, I'm satisfied in letting the minutes stand as published. And I would accept a motion to accept the consent agenda as published.
So move.
Thank you, Dick. And I see a second from Scott. Any discussion on accepting the consent agenda as published? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Hearing none, the motion passes and the consent agenda is accepted as published. Number four agenda item is the finance. The treasurer's report was closed, although I don't see Renee on here tonight. If there are any questions, I would turn them over to the superintendent. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to agenda item number 5, the superintendent's report. Superintendent Culkeen, the floor is yours.
Evening. And Amy Goslin is my new administrator. I realized I was a little too familiar with just saying Amy. Amy Goslin, new administrative assistant, started today, and the training began. Nick did her onboarding today, so glad to be moving forward on that. We also are beginning tomorrow our process for the screening for hiring an equity coordinator. So the assistance of the HR director put together a screening group that has people from our equity grant committee, administrators and teachers. So they'll be begin interviewing for that position. Screening meets tomorrow at 3:00. So those are a couple of important announcements. So today was a big day, September 8th. Pre-K through 12 remote learning began. Because it was today, I don't really have a report for you on how that went yet. Those reports will probably filter in with me tomorrow morning. Not surprising, this is more of a soft opening. I'm hearing some technology glitches, but people struggling to find passwords, Chromebooks, which Frank's going to touch on in a little bit. But I'm confident that we will move forward and get this working. It was never expected that on day one everything would be perfect. Meals started again today, but the report I got back from that is we're struggling with getting buses loaded and maybe getting the word out. Getting the word out about where the pickup points are, and that report I got back was the Avid Group was a little disappointed with how it went today from their view because the meal count was down. But again, first day, so we'll keep plugging at it and important aspect of what we do to our students. I was asked about some protocols about safety as we go back to school. Well, before I get the protocol, let me finish. So today was the 8th, and that was our remote learning begins. Our plan is for the week of September 14th. The staff returns fully to the buildings. So right now the staff is still working remotely, but on the 14th, we're going to be entering phase 2, which means we will be bringing students will return that have been identified with remote access issues, like internet access, safety, or those students with complex and significant needs. So they will be returning next Monday. The K through 12 window is 9 to 12:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and K-12 and early ed, 9:30 to 11:30. So it's not going to be the full day that we hope to get to at some point, but this gets, like I said, our students with complex and significant needs in for services sooner rather than later. So that begins the week of the 14th. One note to that is transportation is not being provided during that week because they're still be doing food service unless that it's outlined in an individual education plan on the service page plan or a homeless designation. Then we will attempt to provide transportation during the week of the 14th because those tend to be on buses that aren't being utilized for food service. The following week, the week of September 21st, we're going to announce it at a later date if transportation is available the week of the 21st. We don't have that answer yet, but meals will continue to be provided. But during that week, September 21st, we're going to bring pre-K and kindergarten students into the building. And that's it, not the whole school. And then the week of the 28th, pre-K through 12, all students under hybrid phase 2, which is 2 days in person and 3 days remote. So for elementary, half the class on Monday, Tuesday, and the other half on Thursday, Friday, so that we can ensure physical distancing. So that will begin the week of the 28th with bus transportation. Why I'm not sure if we'll have transportation on the 21st is we're starting everything anew from scratch. Like the bus routes that were in place last year may not work this year. We have people who are opting out of school. We have people who are coming to school, but opting out of transportation because they don't want to put their child on a bus. So we did a survey of who needs transportation, as you may remember. Those results came back. They were given to our tech department, which is doing stellar work, but overwhelmed. They received the list on Friday of who will need transportation. It typically takes at least 10 days to transfer that list into routing through our software. But this is even a little bit more, complicated because, as I said, it's not the same bus routes that we've always run. Our goal is to publish what our bus routes will be on September 18th, but it could be a week later than that. And but our goal is to Friday the 18th on our regular Friday noontime announcement that we would have what the bus routes are going to be that would start up the 21st. And whatever the bus route is running on that week of the 21st will be the same bus route that will run on the 28th, and as long as we are in a hybrid mode, because we made the decision to not develop multiple bus routes. Like here's the A day bus route, and here's the B day bus route, and here's the bus route when only we're picking up kindergarten students. It's only going to confuse people, so we will continue with the same bus routes once we have them up and running. And our bus drivers, I've seen this time and time again with, like during food service, the bus drivers will be, they flex their routes as they see usage. So there may be a bus stop that's published, but they know that on Thursday there's nobody there because everybody on on that, at that bus stop goes on Monday, Tuesday. So we won't know until we really go live with it and make our adjustments from there. Just like, we went live with remote today, and we will be making adjustments as we work through that. So, and then the week, so that, and I'm not going to go into high school. So the week of the 28th is a big, of September 28th is a big week for us. And we'll be publishing this calendar this Friday. And the other thing that can impact it, I still don't have met with the vice president of both associations this afternoon. We are still working on a memorandum of understanding of what change in working conditions may come with remote and hybrid. They're meeting with their negotiating team staff later on this afternoon, I think almost simultaneously with this meeting. And I will see, I think we're close to signing an agreement, but then that would have to be ratified by all the boards too once we're there. But, we could have a tentative agreement and move forward. So it's my hope that we will have all staff on board for the 14th. And then to get to some questions that were asked, particularly about protocols about what to do if someone's sick. So we do have a number of protocols that are all part of our strategy for safe returning, which the SBSV delivery of a strong and healthy fall start is the full title of it. But we have protocols for what to do if someone is sick, building safety protocols for if a student is sick, if a staff member is sick. So I'm not going to read through them, but I will send them to you because there was some inquiry over that. So these were all like what to do if someone is sick. We did share that with school administrators and directors last week on September 3rd. And that was created by the SVSU nurses using the state guidance. The building safety protocols for students, that was shared with families on last Friday's email to families. And same thing, that was created by the SVSU nurses using state guidance. And we shared with staff on August 24th, so because that's when they were returning, the staff building safety protocols. And so I did not send you my usual Friday or Monday email blast because today kind of ran away from me. So I will send that out tomorrow. That will include these documents for you, and you can see what the protocols are for if a student or staff member either shows up sick or gets sick during the day. And isolation rooms are also in place for that. Any questions on any of that before I continue?
Hey Jim, I have a quick question, and I have heard this across the district, and I think it's just prudent for us to think about a way out on some of this stuff because I don't want a temporary problem to result in permanent things, and I know none of the other people, you or teachers or administrators or the other people on this board do either. And somewhat selfishly, full disclosure, it impacts myself because my daughter is a fourth grader at Shaftesbury, and there's 26 or 27 kids in that class right now, which is a lot in normal circumstances, and an incredible undertaking with a new teacher, a teacher just in the role in these circumstances. And I'm just curious, how do we as a board help the district? How do we as a board help you? How do we as a board help the kids in getting through this and saying, in these schools, and I realize it's happening across the district, in these schools where you've got doubled up, all of a sudden we couldn't rehire teachers because of the situation we were in, and there's a large number of kids in these classes. How do we get out of that? What's going to be the process for that?
Well, one, we'll see what, as state guidance changes to allow us to So are you asking like when will we go fully in school?
No, I'm saying what we've got is a situation where now there's 20, we're down a fourth grade teacher in Shaftesbury.
Yeah.
And whether it's this class that my daughter's in that has 26 kids, or the classes in other schools that have a large number of kids because we were down a teacher and we couldn't rehire.
Right.
We couldn't rehire. So how do we get out of that?
So we will have to flex and look at each individual case and see if we need to bring additional personnel on. One thing that we're waiting for is I don't have information on how many parents, say from that one particular fourth grade class, are opting out and they're going to teach their kid completely remotely from home, or are going to be school choice. So I haven't seen attendance figures from what today, looks like. So, but that is certainly something that we are monitoring. And then the first advocate is going to be the principal. If he, as we've said we have filled some positions over some of the SU, at the high school, middle school, and some of the elementary schools, because there was a demonstrated need. So it hasn't remained a zero fill policy or practice. We have to be practical about it. So if that's the number that shows up and it's an impact, then the first, the principal will request that of me, and then I'll be coming back to the board with what decision we need to do if we need to bring additional people on. But we're obviously always looking at what those numbers are. And, Shaftesbury is not alone with some high numbers. We got some high numbers at Monument, with the problem though of maybe no room to add another teacher even if we wanted to. It also could, Scott, depend on how long are we in a hybrid model where only 50% of the students are coming in at a time too.
I still think that those teachers are still teaching 100% of the kids, whatever that count is, whether or not they're in the room, right? So I'm thinking from the board perspective as an oversight, we've got to help you do the best thing that we possibly can for these kids. And from my perspective, that's what I feel like we should be doing.
And I agree with you, and that's I am pausing a little to see like how many we have come in and exactly what it's all going to look like. And I don't have that. I don't have enough information in front of me right now just to know what the final numbers are going to settle all that. And then nothing will be etched in stone because somebody may decide that they're going to opt out, but then if their confidence in, say there is a vaccine, developed or something, it's confident about practices and protocols that are put in place that they want their child to go to school, that number will change overnight. So yeah, we'll monitor. But we'll start with the principal requesting that they want an additional staff member, and then we'll see what we can do. Because we did save money, we put a spending freeze might be too strong of a word, but we really locked down what spending is. Everything really needs to be justified so that we and when I get into some of the dollars that we may be spending for ventilation systems, you'll see, and I give you some other reports of money that we've been spending. There's all kinds of grabs for our finances right now, but I'm not opposed to adding teachers. I've never said it's any open position, any retirement. We said it goes unfilled unless you can justify why you need it.
No, please don't take my comments. No way did I think that that's something you said. It's more I know it's the situation we're in, and I want to get ourselves out of it as quickly as possible.
I agree. I'll continue down the finance part of it. I mean, some of the things that we've been spending money on, plexiglass, to put some shields up. We're limiting where we put those because every shield we put up needs to be cleaned and disinfected, and wearing masks and keeping physical distance is still the best, way to go. Every teacher was provided also a face shield as a secondary protection device to wear. So they're all given 5 masks to start, and then a face shield, 5 reusable masks, not disposable masks that they can wash and as we get more supplies in, we may do a redistribution again. Each school is also having masks distributed to the nurses. There's protection kits that came from the state for all the nurses that have now been distributed to all the nurses, which includes gowns and shields and gloves. And we also will position disposable masks at the schools for a student who doesn't show up for a mask with a mask, and we don't want to get in a position that we're giving out masks every day too, because that nothing will sink our budget quicker than that. But we also, need to be realistic. But we're working on what will happen with someone. We have protocols in place for someone who continuously doesn't have that mask, and hopefully we're not going to have to go down that road. But tents have been purchased that will go outside of the schools. That's where the temperature screening will be done. We originally thought we were going to buy simple pop-up tents, like drop down to Ocean State Job Lot and buy them, and then we get requirements for fire rating and wind resistance. So we're now up to a $20,000 bill for tents, and the ventilation. Where do I start with ventilation? Well, I will tell you, we did do a $25,000 purchase for standalone filtration units, which hopefully will be in by mid-September. Between the 19th and 24th is our estimation of delivery. So students will be in the building, but the windows are going to have to be open, or we won't have all students in the building. There's a chart for how they will be distributed to schools. And I also acknowledge that we very well may need to buy a second round of them as we put these out. People say, well, why is there one in this space and not in this space? But the facilities directors walked around, and then we submitted to Efficiency Vermont. They're not going to pay for many of these filtration units. They're only really going to pay for them where other ventilation projects can't be done. So if there's like an isolation room. So I'll quickly run down. For Congress Street, 10 ventilation units, Bennington Elementary, 1 for your isolation room. Molly Stark Elementary is getting 3. 1 is for the isolation room there, and 1 is for the hearing booth that can't be ventilated. Pownell Elementary is getting 15 filtration units. Shasbury Elementary 7, Woodford Hollow 5. We're buying 6 for the administration office and 1 for Division Street. So the early ed program and the administration offices are not eligible for the grant, but those units are $270 a piece. Like I said, we're buying just slightly under $25,000 worth. Efficiency Vermont and our air quality information for getting our buildings ventilated. Good news is Bennington Elementary, Molly Stark, and Monument are all up to building codes for air quality standards, but we are going to replace, put MERV 13 filters into those buildings, and the air purifiers for the locations in those buildings I meant. The grant award is pending on those. We have no word whether we'll get any matching funds for that or whether we just have to pay those outright. Pownell Elementary, we have submitted a $330,928 project to complete the ductwork and equipment from the 1996 project, which I don't know what that is, but that's how it's listed. Approval for that is pending. It was rejected initially for not enough or lack of specific detail, but it's been resubmitted. I hope the fact that they're allowed to resubmit it is a good sign that maybe we'll get something from that grant. Shasbury Elementary, an $88,619 project to complete the final phase for the remaining 7 classrooms. And the good news is Efficiency of Vermont awarded us a $60,000 grant towards that $88,000 cost. So that's good news. Congress State installed the ventilation system there. The estimated cost is $56,403. We were awarded a grant for $42,000 of the $56,000 to do that. So, that's good. The rest of the grants are for central office. We're not eligible at central office because there are no students there, and the rest are what's some pending or denied grants with the high school. So it sounds good, but there's also challenges. That money has to be spent by December 31st, and that we have no signed contracts with contractors yet. Hayden Engineering is the one that walked through the buildings and did a lot of these proposals, but the supplies can be there in time and work can be done in time. The prices all reflect doing daytime work. There's no extra money differential for doing nighttime or weekend work. So I've told the principals that we may be getting back, and we get back up and bringing people into a hybrid model, but if Pownell does get that $330,000 grant, there may be times that we're going to have to go back to remote and get students out of the building, and possibly even in Shasbury. I don't know at this time what the size of that work is and how much corridor space or interruptions in the classrooms. Can we move people into one part of the building? I don't know that yet, but I just made principals aware that that may happen as we're into November, and hopefully contractors are in the building addressing the ventilation issue.
So, Jim, when you were going down the list of how much money is going to be needed for each of the buildings, did you mention the school building in Woodford?
So Woodford, we're providing 5 air purifiers for Woodford Elementary as their ventilation issue, because there is no ductwork there.
So that's it.
Right. Yeah. That was, the building was walked through, and that would be it. And then, like I said, if we need to buy a $270 a unit, if we need to buy additional units, then that's what we'll have to do. But this is the first round. And like Chromebooks, which I also will talk about in a minute, all of these supplies, we're chasing the same supplies that everybody else is, and we have our fingers crossed and hoping that delivery dates are for real. So, any other question on ventilation? Vic, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm used to dealing with contracts, and in most cases you can apply for extensions provided you lock in some particular aspect of the project. Is that not possible here?
So I asked the same thing, but the answer from Alex, our engineer with Efficiency Vermont, and Renee is, this is federal CARES Act money, and it's their requirement that the money has to be spent by December 31st. So unless the federal government wants to give us an extension on spending the money, because I asked the same thing, like, well, as long as we have a signed contract, can we do it? But the money has to be expended by the contractor paid, the way the rules are currently written right now.
So if you're into the job, but the full expenditure hasn't been accomplished yet, whatever hasn't been spent won't be able to then.
Right.
You
So
could end up with it.
a congressman or senator, I think you should let them know that that you feel that there should be some kind of an extension on these funds. If a contract has already been signed and the work is commenced, then I would love that they would give us some leeway. But we're being told right now not to expect that. Can I answer anything else on ventilation? And it is a concern that comes up in the MOU with the Teachers Association every time. This is like one of those, cans that we opened up that we don't know what was there, and now it's made an issue. It's become a topic of discussion, and it's a very valid issue about, we're talking about some old buildings that don't have mechanical ventilation systems. So I was in on one meeting with a very lengthy discussion about Pownell and a univent heater versus a cabinet heater, and how do we protect pipes from freezing in Pownell on their univent heaters, and that's why the air intakes have been blocked in the first place. So, I mean, this is different. Remember, the first estimate from the engineer who did the Bennington project was saying $5 to $8 million. Just you would do to all your school buildings, get them all up to code. But I think that would be a tough bond issue to get passed right now, and it's not going to do anything for us right now. So I have a love-hate with the portable filtration units. What are we going to do with all of these if we continue upgrading our ventilation system as we should? We could be having a yard sale of selling slightly used ventilation units at some point, or there'll always be a place maybe that where they need it. And the other thing that everyone's telling us is, be prepared to see our utility bills go up this winter. Jerry Crew's on this somewhere, right, Jerry? Yeah. Because we're going to be taking more fresh air into the buildings, and part of the way an energy efficient system is like that we have at the Bennington schools is it's a tight window of when you're bringing in air and exhausting air, because that air you bring in, you're paying to heat it, and then you're exhausting it, and so. All the engineers have warned us our utility bills are going to go up. We're going to be bringing fresh air in, but our utility bills are going to go up. So the next money issue that I want to talk about is Chromebooks. I think, Frank, the number you put in front of me was over $300,000 for Chromebooks, if we can get them. We're again competing with the same other schools for the same product. The good news is, our tech department, under Frank, I'll give him some credit here, brought a one-on-one initiative to all our district years ago. So we have adequate supplies of Chromebooks right now, but as things need repair, that may change. So we're trying to buy more. And there's been some talk to, instead of a one-on-one initiative, a two-on-one initiative in which, there's a device at home and a device at school. So we're not bringing them back and forth. But we don't have enough on hand to do that. But we did order tote bags, 8,000 tote bags, is that correct? That will be so that they can be brought back and forth. But I asked Frank if he would give you a little update on the distribution of Chromebooks and where we sit right now.
Sure. So in the spring, we sent out 1,851 Chromebooks, individual Chromebooks to students. Over the summer, we collected back most of those. There's still a couple hundred that need to come back, and that's one of the only issues we really ran into today was hearing from parents who couldn't use the Chromebook that they have because they didn't bring it back for updating. So I expect the majority of those will come back too. I know a whole bunch we're accounting for today. So we redistributed the Chromebooks that we had, and everybody who has requested one has one that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anybody say that they didn't get one. As far as the new ones coming in, we're just waiting, like Jim mentioned, we're waiting in line like everybody else. They all come from China. There are several issues with getting those from China to here, but they're coming. And we just we're in the queue for as soon as they show up. And Jim also mentioned that the possibility of maybe moving to a 2-to-1 scenario, and that would be possible because a lot of the Chromebooks that we have that are out in the community right now are ready to be replaced anyway, and we could leave them in the community and refill the cards that are in the buildings, so students will be able to have access both places without having to carry anything or worry about infecting anything by carrying stuff back and forth between home and that kind of stuff. Any questions beyond that or anything specific, Jim, you want me to touch on?
No, I I think that there was some perception that, we gave out 1,700 Chromebooks and they were slow in coming back. But, the number is the low 200s right now that's still out there. So I think, what did you tell me the return rate is less than 14%?
Yeah, I just, before the meeting, I looked and it's about 12% so far that are still out. And I know from today's phone calls that a lot of those are going to be coming back very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what the board should be aware of is that what the tech office was able to do was to, I don't know if turn off the device is the right term, Frank, but
Disable it.
Remotely. So then the phone calls started coming in because hey, my Chromebook's not working. Yeah, you didn't return it, and have it upgraded and exchanged. So whatever we can do to get them back in so that they can be updated and checked out by the tech department.
We also have right now, I'm sorry, Jim, but we also have, if anybody contacts us, we can switch a Chromebook out for them right away. It's not like they need to bring it back and wait for it to be updated. We have enough machines where we just need to know you're coming in and we'll have it all set to go for you.
But I can't thank the tech department enough for what they've been doing this summer, what they did in the spring to get them out, and then this summer to get us ready. Yeah, there's been some snags. I've gotten some complaints. I'm sure maybe as board members you referred to. I got a complaint about a Chromebook that went out dirty. It hadn't been cleaned or sanitized. I think that issue's been corrected. Some connectivity issues, but it's still, we've ramped up to do something that we've never done before, and there's going to be snags to it. But Frank's pushing his people, and I'm pushing Frank to their limit because his department's also dealing with bus routes at the same time on running Chromebook, and then teaching staff that returned today to remote learning, and I'm hearing reports of Frank's office being swamped with people like, my God, I don't know my password, or I forgot how to connect. And so think of all the frustration that we may feel sometimes just logging onto this meeting, but our teachers and our tech department and our administrators are dealing with that. Today it went live, and it struggled a little, but we're going to get better every day. We couldn't do it without Frank and the tech department. And
can I add something to that, please? Just the because this struck me when I did the math. I mean, we had 122 helpline calls over the weekend before we even showed up. The phone's been ringing constantly all day long. So besides the fact that my staff had always been, our function was to help teachers, educators and staff in the buildings to take care of all the tech problems. Now we suddenly have, and that's roughly 600 people. Now we have families. So now we have 3,000 students. So our responsibility has suddenly gone up 500%. And we're doing it with the same number of people. It's tough keeping up with it, but my staff they really have a great positive attitude about it. We're doing the best we can under the circumstances we're dealt. And I was surprised there was only, as looking through the help desk tickets that came through today, the only ticket that mentioned a Wi-Fi problem was one. And that was actually not a Wi-Fi problem. That was a laptop problem. So in general, I'm proud of my staff. I think they're doing really excellent work under the conditions.
I do too. I think they all are. So let me see if I think that's all I had, and then your questions. And I see.
Are you able to tell us a bit about the 611 trauma classroom?
Yeah.
Congress Street. Yeah,
The 611 has been moved to Congress Street. it makes it being a shared resource easier, and it's not just identified with one building, consolidated it. Because it didn't have very high enrollment at Bennington Elementary in particular last year. So it's now at Congress Street, and they follow the same protocols that we do as all our schools. So the protocols for health and safety will be the same there, and that's one of the buildings that got approval for Efficiency Vermont to upgrade their ventilation system. So it was an ideal candidate for a project that they could approve. So, anything further on that, Chris?
Do we have a sense as to how many elementary students are going to be in that building in the coming year and coming weeks?
I'll have to get you that number. I don't know how many are there right now. Or, well, no one there right now, but how many will be? Oh, Kate joined. Kate will be able to answer that for you.
Do you mind? I didn't want to.
No, I
jump in.
It's super there because I was waiting. I was waiting for your email. I had talked to Kate this morning saying I need that answer, and I didn't see it. But it's better. We got Kate right here to answer it for you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we have 30 seats for, and so two major things have happened. We've joined the 611 program, which was the trauma-sensitive program, into the Congress Street site. When we moved the children who were in attendance to Congress Street to join the On Point group, we also moved the behavior specialist, the BCBA, board certified behavior specialist, and the counselor that was seeing those children to that site, as well as the two teachers who were serving the children. So we did move the 611 to join into the Congress Street On Point. And we also shifted the grade span. So instead of being a K-6 program, it's now a K-8 program. And we have a teacher from the middle school joining the group, and he will be serving as lead teacher this year, as well as Donna Cawley will be our administrative oversight for that site this school year. We have a total of 30 seats and 6 teaching staff. So we have a very small teacher to student ratio. We have 2 counselors, a social worker, a board certified behavior analyst, and 7 paraeducators. So it's a very low adult to student ratio in the hopes of providing a highly therapeutic environment to allow children to stabilize and then be able to return back to their home schools. Does that, and yes, there's a safety plan. Donna Cawley drafted it with the buildings and grounds folks from the high school, Tony D'Onofrio, as well as the lead teacher, David Birch, and was rolled out to the staff there in the last week of August. And it's very similar to the same protocols that we're seeing at the elementary schools with the seclusion space if we do have a child that becomes sick during the day, and health and safety protocols for temperature taking on the way in the door, hand washing, social physical distancing. So there's a schedule that they're starting to allow for the children that need to come in when we're able to be live again, for the children to be able to come in and still maintain the physical distancing that we have to pay attention to. So that's in summary the changes and planning for On Point, which is no longer On Point Elementary, it's just On Point because it's also middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Out.
Sure.
Anything else I can answer for you? All right. Well, that concludes my report, Chairperson. You're muted, Chris.
Sorry about that. There we go. The next agenda item is policy, but the policy committee has not met. So moving on to the chair report, agenda item 7. Primarily, I've already covered it. I wanted to cover the issue with the vice chair to this board. So again, we will take up that matter again as soon as the Shaftesbury Select Board appoints a Shaftesbury rep to this board to fill the slot that Tony left behind when he moved over to the SU. Agenda item 8, the FYI, the budget status report, which was included in the board packet. And with that, Our next agenda item is to move into executive session. Again, not using the provisions outlined on the agenda, but as the agenda was amended at the beginning of this meeting, which allows for confidential attorney-clients communication. So I would entertain a motion to move into executive session as per the amended agenda.
You should announce you may return to take action.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent Culkeen. We may return to take action based on that conversation. So I saw Dick with his hand up first. Was that to make the motion, Dick? Very good. And then I see Scott with his hand up after that. So is that the second? Very good. So first and a second. Any discussion about moving into executive session? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving into executive session, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we're now moving into executive session. So can I please have a motion to exit executive session?
Here.
Very good. So Tammy first. Could I have a second for that, please? Dick, thank you very much. Any discussion about leaving executive session? Hearing none, all those in favor of leaving executive session, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Any abstentions? Very good. And we are out of executive session. Scott, I believe you have a motion to make.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to delegate authority to Superintendent Culkeen for handling any leave of absence requests, and an appeal is necessary. It can be brought to the board for review.
Very good. There's a first. Can I get a second to that motion, please?
Second that.
I think I saw Tammy's hand first, so we're going to give it to Tammy as the second on that. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. The motion passes. So that exhausts our agenda for this evening. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I think Dick, and with that, we'll call Tammy as the second. Any discussion about adjourning? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. Motion passes. So we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe.